Hi, I'm Mike Kelly from Project Healing Waters Omaha, and tonight, this week, Bill Klumper will tie a few flies. So we'll hand it over to Bill, and he can do his
It works.
replace. There you
Hey
go.
all, how are you? Well, we're going to try to do some flies. This one is actually kind of a concept fly. Mike has seen it before, in some pictures. And so I'm going to go through some of the materials, and I'm actually going to do a little bit of a longer materials discussion than normal to point out some alternatives we can use that can really save us a lot of money when we're buying fly tying stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my little materials camera. I'm working on kind of trying to get cameras and stuff going. And so what I did is the materials for this fly, right, is a 4XL8. Okay, so there it is. Hopefully you can see it. To me, the camera looks upside down. Does everyone see it correctly?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then the other item that I'm using is something called palmered chenille. However, this stuff at J. Stockard is like about $5 to $6. You can pick up 400 feet of the same thing from Hobby Lobby, and it has some interesting characteristics to it. Okay, so I saw this Hobby Lobby. This could be interesting to work with. The other thing that I'm working with is the Polar Reflector Flash Chenille Chartreuse from Hairline. And so this costs you about $5 or $6, but there's another place that makes almost a similar product, right? Polar Ice, very similar, very good build, and it's called Fly Tires Dungeon. So you can find a lot of materials at Fly Tires Dungeon a whole lot cheaper than you can from the other houses. Now in this build, and I'm going to do the same build several times over, I have myself two, they're actually fluorescent chartreuse barred grizzly hackles. I'm going to be using two of those. Later on, I'm going to use something that comes in, and this is just one of those grab bags of deer hair that you can get from Cabela's, right? So they have it there. It gives you some pieces you can work with, and you're not spending, $10 to $15. The other
Bill,
items that are going to come into play on the later build are my Sharpies.
Bill, is that bucktail or?
Yeah, that is bucktail. Yes,
okay.
This is the bucktail grab bag. For one of the builds, I actually end up using not the brightly yellow colored hairs, but actually the brown hairs. I want some of that mottled appearance in with the fly. And I'll probably play around with some GSP. Now we're going to go to the focus fly next. Okay, here's the focus fly. And so basically it is one of your classic streamer patterns, but what you'll notice is that if I pull it back, you'll see the very long fibers left over from the palmered chenille. In this case, I'm actually not using the stuff from J. Stockard. I'm actually using the stuff from Hobby Lobby. Okay, and I think it actually works better, and it has some interesting properties to it also. So I'm going to put it down. I'm going to chuck up a 4-hook, and let's just see what happens next. Okay. I'm going to start off with a red 70 denier, right? It's UTC. You can really use any color you want for this. I'm going to start about mid-hook, and then I'm just going to go work my way back with it to where I want to get a tie-in point. And my first tie-in point is actually going to be my hackle, okay? So I'm going to go back about 4 or 5 reps from there. I'm going to cut it Maybe I should put glasses on. Might be a good idea. I'm going to cut it. And now I'm going to take and I'm going to grab my 2 feathers. I put them in a hackle plier. I'm going to strip off the fuzz, right? Now, what I'm doing is proportion wise, if this is 1 time the hook length, I'm doing about 2 times the hook length. Okay, that's kind of about what I'm looking for. So I'm just going to strip back everything and get myself a little bit of a platform to tie to. Hopefully, if I do it right, they'll be almost the same length and they'll be on the same side of the hook. Okay, that's number A. Let me get number B going. The fun part is when you're working with feathers is to actually get it so that they look almost all the same. My 2 feathers are actually, one of them is looking a little better than the other. Yep, I like that one a little bit better. Sometimes feathers, you may look at something and decide, nah, you want to change a little bit, on what you're doing, with your feather. This is some old hackle that was given to me. So thank the donor, whoever it was, don't know, and stuff. And if you'll notice, there's a shiny side and there is a dark side to this guy. I'll make sure my tails are exactly the same length. I'm just stripping off. Luckily enough, everyone has a waste bin and a system for handling their waste. I'm actually got one of those silicone dog mats. So whenever stuff hits it, it kind of sticks. So you have to end up using something like one of those lint rollers to get everything off. So now I'm going to get my feathers so they're married and about the same length. This is where I always have all my problems and stuff. And hints are always welcome. It's called tremors. They really can mess with you some days. Okay. Got both sides on there. I'm going to see if I can. Okay. I'm going to fold it in a little bit towards me. Whoops. Caught my hook on that. Let's go back 2 turns. Let's see if I'm about the same length for tail feathers. There is a way you can actually take one. Okay, they're same length now.
Hey, Bill, can you zoom in a little bit more on the hook? Your zoom keeps coming in and out.
Oh, that's because of autofocus. Okay, that's what's happening right there. And unfortunately, I've not had time to correct that. Okay, that'll be just something I got to work with on my camera. Okay, so there I've got my tail in place. Okay.
Bill, so with that, you probably want to zoom back out. Since you have the autofocus thing, you should probably.
Yeah, I'll have to figure out where autofocus is on my camera.
Yeah, just zoom back out to where you were, and then you won't have that problem as bad. There you go.
Okay. So now I've got my tail on there. She looks pretty square, a little bit off-centered. Will the fish care? Probably no. Okay. So now I'm going to wrap back, and here is a decision point you have to make with regards to this fly. Now, you could have put on lead, which would have been done earlier, or you can just put the palmered hackle in place. So what you do with this stuff is what you'll notice is if you look on the underside, there are little bumps, right, that can impact you. So what I do with this stuff is I just find the end, right? I clip off a few of the little pestiferous things, and then I give it a little bit of a haircut to give me a little bit of a steep angle. This stuff is a little thicker than the J Stockard stuff. Okay, gonna make a pinch wrap here. I'm gonna pull back so I don't get a whole lot of fibers caught in it. Okay, work my way backwards. Now I'm gonna show something very interesting property about this material. If you don't tie it upside down, what does she do? She hackles herself forward, like as though you're doing a tenkara fly, okay? And so this actually, you can get different perspectives with this in terms of how you decide you want to tie it in. upside down will give you the straight looking palmered chenille that we're looking for, okay? So you want to be 180 opposite. Okay. Now you notice it comes straight up, right? And as with any palmered chenille, you're going to want to bring it back. Oops, I got a little bit too much length here. That was for another part of this demo. May have cut myself too short now. Palmer it means you're just taking your fingers, everybody knows this, and you're bringing it back. And I'm not going to have good luck because my first fly I did today turned out perfect.
Looking good so far, Bill.
It's a little bit not where I want it, but that's fine. I'm going to wrap myself further forward. One of the fun things about this is you notice I just grabbed some feathers. The next one is going to be a slightly different build, and I'll show you what I did differently. So this is kind of a scraggly body, right? If you go too tight, it will want to misbehave on you, okay? So it would have helped had I decided to use some hackle pliers, okay? I'm going to stop right here because now I'm going to use that hackle flash. So I'm going to grab it once, twice. Actually, I'm going to go inside of it, and I'm going to wrap myself around it once, and twice, pull up, go in front. I'm going to cut it. Now, I do have a mess up front, right? So that there's always, aisle cleanup in number 7. So I will very quickly get rid of my extra little hairs here and then make myself a thin little platform with which to work on. I'll go a little slower. Is that working any better for you, Jesse? I'll have to figure out how to get manual focus off on the camera. I apologize. I went through 3 cameras this week, and I had no luck with anything. I'm going to get that cleaned up. Okay, now we come to our polar chenille. You're going to only want to do about 2 wraps, 3 wraps. Otherwise, it just gets way, 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 way too much for it. Okay, quite often, a lot of people these days, to save money, they leave the whole thing together. This stuff, as you notice, has an inner core, but as you start peeling back that inner core, what it does is it actually starts to give way on you, okay, because they're using the inner core as part of the wrap, okay? So what'll happen is you do a pinch wrap. That's why you actually have to take this stuff a little further back and actually bring it up and onto the backing that you just put in with your palmered white chenille. I'm going to clean up a little bit on aisle 7. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to palmer myself a couple of turns. Now, what'll happen is with this much chenille, you can get yourself caught inside your spool like I'm doing. If you do it right and you're running underneath it and you put it in your hand, you aren't going to have a big mess. But I'm trying to be stingy on chenille right now. Palmer it back, you'll start to notice I'm starting to get a nice spiky body. And that's what we want, but we don't want too much. Here's about my 4th wrap. That's about as far as I really, really want to go with this guy because I want to build a head, okay? This stuff loves to go out of control on you, okay? I'm going to do 2 wraps, and then I'm going to cut it. Now we're going to build ourselves a very, 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 very traditional head. I'm going to pull it back. Sometimes wetting your fingers helps you get stuff pulled back. I do have a few flyaways in here, which I will have to take care of. Okay, on my and we'll get those taken care of. You can, I have it hidden. I've got one of those little zappers. Then I'm going to just do a real quick whip finish. You always go, I'm doing it wrong. You go back to front, about 4 or 5 turns, catch it, pull it, you're done. And there you go. Ouch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup on aisle 7 on this, because this stuff loves to go everywhere. Okay. Those little cauterizing tools that you can buy them at Joann's, really work great for getting rid of any runaways. You can also end up, if you're really, really, really careful, you can actually use a thing. So there you go. There's a nice little spiky bug that looks like basically a bait fish. Okay, you got a thin little red head on it, and you got a spiky body that reflects stuff. You've got a nice long little chartreuse tail, uniform in length. And so this is basically a little bait fish pattern. This pattern will not sink very fast. So either you can use a little bit of split shot in front of it, or, and I really don't have, I can't find my lead that is 10 thousandths, 0.010. That's the lead I like working with. I really don't like 0.020. And you can add some of that to this. So this is really the first kind of fly that you can make with this. So I'm just going to put it on my little hook holder, and I will head cement it later. I'm just going to wrap my hackle flash up into a little ball. That's typically the way most people do it. I'm going to start with the same thing all
Hey,
over
Bill,
again.
do you have that little carterizer or
What?
whatever?
I can't hear you, Jesse.
Do you have the little carterizer thing so we can see it, what you're talking about?
Yeah. Give me a sec. Yep, I got both of them. My microphone is also not very loud today. Okay. This is called a thread zap 2, battery powered. Okay. The nice thing is you got to put new batteries in it. You want to make sure you do keep.
There you go.
Yeah, you do want to make sure that you keep it fairly clean on the tip, because it will impact how well it works. It's by the Beadsmith. Okay. Now here is what you find being sold in all the fly shops. It's by Bovie. It actually also uses batteries. You can take it apart here. This guy, if you see, look at how quickly it got hot. The thread zap is a lot lower in heat. So when you get this close to synthetic materials are going to respond to that heat and they're going to crinkle up. Okay. So you've kind of got to be careful with it. You know, what's happening right there. So Bovie is sold, and they're sold for like 21, 22 bucks. Get this, you can get replaceable tips with it, keep it clean, use some batteries, a lot cheaper over the long time. I got this from that, hang on, I got this guy from a doctor friend, right? They were throwing them away. So you can sometimes animal hospitals have them and you can get them and they're throwing them away. So it's a cheap way to come up with that. Now, before I chuck up the next hook, we know in life, fish and animals, there are a lot of variegated colors, right? In other words, they're not just uniformly one color, okay? And so what I found with this line, the Scrubology white, is I can actually take a magic marker and I can variegate it. And what it does with the variegation on it is, and you'll see right here, right? I'm going to mark it. it will actually start creating little dots and lines. You're just going to take your magic marker, you're going to touch it, you're going to leave a spot clear. Okay. Then we're going to go a little ways down further. We're just going to touch it. We're going to give myself a little green spot. Okay. Because this will give you your variegation. What
Can't
becomes
see what you're
interesting though
doing,
is that,
Bill. Bill,
what?
we can't see what you're doing.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm trying to take my magic marker. Thank you. Trying to take my magic marker and color this thread. Thank you, John. I appreciate it. I'm taking a little bit of yellow here. Okay. And so what I'm doing is and I just used a pair of hackle pliers. And again, I apologize. I should be trying to, oh, that's really out of focus pretty badly, isn't it? What I'll do is I'll color it, and I will make one other coloring mark, and then I will hold it out, because as we get closer to focus, we're losing it. So again, I apologize. Okay, I'm going to do some. Can I get myself a little different in focus? No, I cannot. Not watching the camera very well. Okay, I'm done. Now, you've actually been able to make this stuff into a variegated chenille. What ends up really happening, interesting, is these colors, as you wrap them around a hook, will actually run up the fly. Here's a quick demonstration of it. I just did this with pink, brown, green, and you'll notice as I turn it, you'll start to see the green being reflected off of it. Hopefully you can see that. I'll go in a little tighter. See how the green's being reflected off of that? You can now make yourself variegated body patterns with the same material. Now, in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a piece of bucktail for my tailing material. Okay, it's different. And so obviously with anything, you want to choose colors. And if you'll notice, in this piece of chenille, if I've got enough, I have got brown, green, yellow, brown, green. So you run a pattern that's kind of consistent with what you see in nature. And so the piece of bucktail that I would like to choose, and again, the audience can chime in here, is I'm going to take this guy right here, okay? And all I want is I want a few wispy feathers, okay? I don't want a lot. Matter of fact, I don't even want them stacked, okay? Because, if we look at nature, we love stacked stuff, but in nature, not everything is straight. So I'm going to cut a chunk of this deer hair off after I get myself set up for getting my thread base down. We'll do our typical jam knot. Bring yourself all the way back. For a lot of you, you already know this, you hold it at 45 and it helps you keep a fairly uniform base. Deer hair can get interesting. There's a pull knot, I'm not very good at it, that can help you keep it. Okay, so I'm going to go back, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, back. Okay, I'm just going to take a little bit of this bucktail. Okay, it's got a little bit of a curve to it, so I'm going to find an area that's a little straighter. So I'm going to hunt a little higher up in here, because all I want is I just want a little bit of those colored tips. That's all I want. I'll pull out a couple of long ones, straighten it out. Not really going to stack it. Okay. And again, stacking, we always do with our flies. Okay. Because that's just, what we do. I am going to take and I'm going to brush out all of the looser material. Okay. And then I'm going to actually pull on a little bit of it to get some of the other loose stuff out of there. You're a little bit long on me. Okay, you're a little long. Oops. Okay, that's about what I want. So I'm going to look at a body and a half length for this. Okay, this is bucktail. She will crush. Okay, as you bring it down, see how it's flaring out on me? You want to make sure you're really careful with it, and you want to keep it at the top of your hook. Now, it's flaring on me because I've got near the base end of it. See that? And it's turned 180 around on me. So I'm going to take it loose again. I've actually got a fly made out of this. Oh, by the way, there's a little trick. You can do a little circle around it, assuming I don't shake too much. And then you can pull it tight. And then that can help you hold on to it. Assuming I can get my fly all in the right place. Well, guess what I'm not doing? Loose wraps. Okay, that's what I want. A little high up here. You want to cut it at a severe angle, or this will leave you with one heck of a bump. Okay, remember, deer hair is compressible. I just want a very, very, very sparse tail. Okay, just something there to show we've got a tail on this fish. And you'll notice you've got little black ends here. You got a little bit of the yellow. Okay, and with it, we'll do the same thing with our chenille. The Palmer chenille, I'm going to cut it. This time I'm going to wrap it, and we'll see what happens differently. Again, this is Scribology. $4 and you get, what, 400 feet of it? And they, by the way, they do make colors. They make a pink. They make a red. In this case, the fibers are red colored. Okay. So, and you go from there. Okay. Pinch. I'm going to do a pinch wrap here. Excuse me. This is where I need to learn the means and method that Al uses. Get her wrapped down, get her a little bit tight, bring myself up forward. We're going to use the same chenille, although I can use different stuff. Bring her back over. Come on, play nice. Nope. Okay, I've got her going wrong. If you notice, this stuff, by the way, flips. There we go. There we go. Same body. Now, I'm going to, again, tie it off. Okay, I'm going to bring it forward. I'm going to do 2, 1, 2, in front, 1, 2. Now we're going to tie this guy off. Wrap it around once, twice, bring her up, tie it off, cut it. Now, at this point, you know, you can turn around and we're going to use the same kind of chenille. I've got other different colors buried around here somewhere. In this case, I'm going to shorten up this process a little bit. But if you notice, I've got a variegated body. So you can play around with this. You can make the variegations as long or as short as you would like to make them. Like I said, this stuff, and I'll have to play around with camera. So again, I appreciate everybody's patience on this. this stuff is, like I said, really interesting to play with. Let me clean up on aisle 7 because those guys will go forward of me. Having good sharp scissors is kind of important for a lot of things you do in fly tying. Get those guys cleaned up. There
Bill,
we go,
what type
baby.
of scissors are you using?
What?
What type of scissors are you using?
These scissors are Renameds. I bought them before they went up in price a whole lot. Okay. They're very sharp. They're curved. They're great because I can run them. They're curved, so I can run them down an edge or I can go up underneath like that. I got a straight pair. My curved pair was originally had some problems right in this area. So they replaced it right away for me. And I use these. And then believe it or not, I use these a lot. Okay. This is what I cut my foam with. Okay. I also cut foam with this guy. Okay. It's a rotary cutter. It's, I think, 12 or 18 millimeter, the smallest you can get. Because one thing you don't want to do is there's certain materials you just don't want to use good scissors to cut with. I know Sun Tao in his presentation said he's cut wire and everything else with it. I'd rather use a cheap pair of scissors to accomplish that.
Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome, sir. 2. That is number 3. That is as many as I want to go because I'm going to crowd the head that I've already done. One thing it's easy to do, crowd the head. Okay. If you notice, I've already managed to do that. What I'll do is I'm going to back off 1 wrap. Okay. Because it just doesn't look good to have the head crowded. And that's just because of the way we tie flies and stuff. And also, believe it or not, it can make it harder for you to get the hook tied on. There we go. I got a little bit of a baby bump here. What I've done is I've palmered back the chenille like this so it won't fall apart, or folded it over. So you got a decent little head. I'm going to bring it all the way forward up to here, and then I'm just going to do a whip finish. Could do 2 half hitches. My half hitch tools are hidden right now. They're in another part of the basement.
Hey, Bill, the front part is hiding.
What's hiding?
The front
okay, I bumped
part
the
of the
camera.
fly.
Yeah, your camera has moved. There you go.
Okay, I apologize, everybody. Sorry about that. What I did is I finished this off with a whip finish, same fly, just use of different materials. Okay. Except for now, I got just a small little bucktail tail into it. And I've got a whip finish on it. And then you just take your scissors and you just very carefully cut the end. Now I got a little tag there. And so this stuff you'll actually want to clean up. Now, I've also done this with these. If I get my extra spectacles on, I may end up cutting the head off. I've also done the razor blade trick. It does work, but you got to be careful what you're doing and stuff. So Did I hide this guy? Now I'll show you what happens with the bovie. Okay. If you get too hot, you can actually burn your head. And set the house on fire, so I think that's probably a pretty good thing. Okay. This hook is going to have problems going together, okay, because I have got some debris right there. You notice, you see how the, okay, there you go. Fairly well cleaned up. I can actually get something through there now. Got one little extra guy hanging loose. There you go. That's how easy those work, okay. Not perfect fly, but you've got colors through here, and what you'll notice is, look at how the blue is coming through. You can actually see the blue coming through on the fibers. So you can actually create yourself a variegated fly really, really easily with this. The next one is for focus fly, real simple, okay. Again, utilizing a little bit of bucktail. And this is, and I'll get it out and I'll show you what it is. Let me find it. This is something called Hairline Small Badger Squishy Chenille Copper. And what it does is it has a little bit of flash built into it. And so it's really, really easy to make a fly, okay? The hook that I used was a number 8 stimulator. Okay, so that was a stem. And then, assuming I can find it and didn't lose it, I had my bead, and here are my beads. Okay, I've yet to put my other invention with it. These are some tungsten slotted beads. They're from Wholesale Fly Company, okay, and stuff. And so this is a real simple fly to make, okay. And the first thing I want to do is, just because, and I haven't, the other ones were done, is you can crush your barb, okay, and you just go basically around like this, squeezing a little bit at a time. How am I for time, or can I? Now, always the fun part is getting the bead on the hook, okay, and for me, not spilling the beads, okay. These are disco faceted beads. What does that mean is they've got slots, they got sides cut onto them, okay. And so basically you've got a big hole, and this is a slotted bead. So this will go actually really nicely around this hook. I just got to get it so that I don't stick myself too bad. And where's my little hole? Can I see? No. There you go. There's a small hole. That's the end I want to work with. Yay. You can, by the way, you can use your hook like that to hold on to it. Luckily enough, it fell straight down, went into a magnet area and stuff like that. So there's my bead. It's in place. I'm going to use the same deer hair, right? I could use a slightly different color. Okay. Did I hide my stackers behind everything? So unfortunately, a couple tools are behind. My tools are normally in front of me and stuff, but I wanted to have a little bit of a green screen. Okay, here's another little clump, about what I want. I'm going to make it really sparse.
I have a question, and this is just me being new. I think this is probably the third head. I think that's a head that I've seen put on flies, the metal ones. Is it just something that isn't often done? Or
a-
is it just you guys don't do those often?
well, for many people, it means a further investment. Okay. And stuff like that. And that's what it is. It really means you got to buy something else. Okay. You can buy other things that can act like beads. You could use glass beads that are big enough to accomplish the same thing. By the way, what I just used, I cheated. I used a comb. It's by a company called Sightcast. It was shown on an FFI show. The only change I made to it is I put 3 pieces of 22 millimeter foam on it. So when I hold it in my hand like this, I don't stick myself. Okay.
Bill, if I could cut in real quick on the bead heads.
Yeah.
I don't personally tie a lot of bead heads. It's just a personal preference. A lot of people use them often. They use them on most of their flies, and it depends on where you fish your flies. Basically, I do tie some bead heads, and that's for things that I want to sink. Purpose. I really want them to sink, but a lot of times, most of the water that I fishing from shore most often, and um, I don't really get to a lot of deeper, like say trout pools and everything. If I do want one of the flies that I have tied to sink deeper, I'll add a little bit of lead to the tippet to make it go down, or add like a sink tip or something like that. But that's just my personal preference. Um, I will be tying some like clousers and stuff like that later on that do have some weight. But what Bill's doing here is that bead in the front, especially being tungsten, it's going to drop it right down deep really quick. So if you know you're going to want to fish this fly deep, then you would want to have that tungsten bead on there. If you want it to sink just like a little bit, you might change that to a brass bead or a glass, like Bill said. And if you don't want it to really sink at all, say you want to fish in 2 to 3 feet of water, you can tie it without the bead and then just kind of let it count down a little bit, and then start retrieving it slowly.
Oops.
So that's why you haven't seen a lot of beads from me. But beads are definitely have their place in fishing. So it's just like adding weight to any other kind of fishing situation. So
For example, at Bennett Springs, there's a little bead headed that's made with tungsten called the French dip, and it proved to be highly effective. Mick Bretz, he ties something called the John Deere, right? That is very, very effective at Bennett Springs. This, because I go mostly for warm water, so I'm running after crappie, bass, and walleye. I do want to get a fairly fast sink rate. Okay. And again, as Mike mentioned, different tippets and everything else will give you different properties. I'm just going to stay with the same red. No reason to change. Now, the neat thing about a stimulator, they're called a natural bend hook. You'll sometimes see them referred to as a natural bend hook. I happen to like these hooks, scuds, and stonefly, because not everything in nature, right, is straight. Okay, there's actually a lot of variability to nature and stuff. And so, there are theories of, the crippled insect, right, and other things that go along there and stuff. So this bundle has been cleaned out. This is, again, another bundle of deer hair. It's fairly sparse. I really only want it about the length of the hook to the gap. So I'll transfer myself over. I'm going to go up, around, do a pinch wrap. I'm going to grab some more. Whoops. Do another loose pinch wrap, pull up, And I'm just going to work my way very, very loosely, seeing my bundle, making sure it wants to stay up on top. Again, oops, I did not get the length I had expected because I moved. There we go. My phone loves me today. Okay, got a nice sparse tail. Good, about where I wanted. Now, quite often with deer hair, because it is a slick hair, okay, quite often you'll just want to run it forward, right? Because what'll happen is it will want to come loose on you because as toothy critters bite it, it'll come loose. Again, the typical way this gets done, you'll normally see almost everybody have this as a nice little neat stack up on top of their fly. So this is one of them fly hair days. And the whole day's been this way, kind of goofy. Got cleanup in aisle 3. Don't cut my thread. If you cut your thread, you can always put it back on. Squishy chenille. This stuff, kind of fun stuff to play with. The interesting thing about it is its core, okay? If you'll notice, it'll come apart a little bit like a regular chenille. You got to really, really pull at it to get anything, because they have really bound this stuff in there tight. And I'm just going to cut myself off a piece here, and just to make it simpler for use. One thing you don't want to do is you don't want to over tighten this, okay? Because if you over tighten it, it loses its squishy properties and then behaves really, really different. If you notice, there's little pieces of crystal flash embedded there. I'm going to bring myself back. I want my tie-in point. I'm going to go at a 45. I'm going to rotate myself around. I'm right up to the edge of where I want to be for my stuff. I'm going to bring her back. And then, like any chenille, you then just wrap it just like that. And it makes kind of a neat little looking fly. Yep. And there you go. 2, 1, 2. This is stuff where trying to figure out how to get to the core, right? You know, where you do your wraps and stuff, is a little bit interesting on this. So a couple more in front, and then I'm going to do some head wraps in front to build a little bit of a body. Hold it up so I don't do what I like to do, which is cut my thread. Okay. Okay, starting to build a little bit of a hot spot. Oops. Not where I want it to be, but there you go. Go slow. Using a thicker thread, like a 140, would make the buildup of this go a lot quicker. Okay, got a little hot spot. My thread is positioned in back, and now we'll do the whip finish. Front to back, about 4 turns. Go down, pull back. And there you've got a simple, basic little, I'll call it bugger or bug, right, that you can throw in. It's got a little hot spot. You can use a little bit of UV cure resin. Now the hot spot's a little bit big. Some people would want to make it smaller. It's really up to you what you want to do with your fly and stuff. the nice thing about Renomeds is they well cut really close.
Do you use that Chanel nail hardener thing?
Yeah. Yeah. Sally Hansen's Hard as Nails. You bet. It's really good. You can use UV cure. Again, it gives you what you decide to use. Will give you different properties. And let me hunt. There's my flashlight.